Good morning, First Baptist. Brian Fellers asked me to talk on a video and share medical issues that may be important to the church. I've thought about this for about a week, and I'm not an expert on videos, but I thought might share some things that may be helpful to you as you go through these troubling times. Last weekend, I was on a video conference with my family. We've been doing Zoom meetings because we haven't been able to get together. And my granddaughter, Georgia, who's my youngest granddaughter, will be 3 in May, has decided that she likes to talk on video. You can't always understand what she's saying, but she's really proud that she can talk. She occupied most of the time, and before our conference call was over, everybody was in stitches. She was proudest of the fact that she had been able to use the potty to go to the bathroom and announce to everyone that she had pooped in the potty that day. She asked everyone their names and then went to proceed to describe her desk in her room and her bed and all of her toys. We were in stitches before it was over. The rest of the children in the family kept asking her questions to egg her on, which really resulted in more laughter. It's those kinds of things that I think we'll remember the most out of our time with the coronavirus. I hope that this passes quickly and that we won't be experiencing an epidemic like this in the future. I think one of the things that we need to do as a church is prepare. We need to realize that pandemics have been here before and they will be here in the future. In fact, in Revelations, it talks about the end times and talks about all the things that are going to come to pass before the Lord's coming. And as believers, we know that we will be taken up and not experience the tribulation that everyone else will experience who are not believers. But there are the signs of the times that tell us that the Lord's coming in the future. Now, I don't know whether this is an immediate representation of those times because we've had pandemics before and people have announced all sorts of theories that the Lord was coming right away. But He does tell us in His Word to prepare. In fact, in the book of Ephesians, Paul was talking to the church in Ephesus, and he said that he came to them with fear and trembling in chapter 4. He came to them not asking them to do anything, but just to live a life worthy of their calling. In fact, he says the same thing in his books to the Corinthians. He doesn't really ask them to do anything. He asks them to understand who the Lord is. And I think that's the message to us, is to live a simple life, to live a life worthy of our calling, as he says in chapter 4 of the book of Ephesians. It means to live simply. We can tolerate this by staying at home. We can still listen to the good counsel of our government and those medical officials who've been looking at the statistics. And that means staying at home, staying away from others, but not distancing ourselves so much that we can't give them a call or a written message. And that's important, to stay in contact, but not necessarily physically in contact. We had a great Easter service yesterday. Got a chance to visit with people through their car windows as I was helping park cars. And it was a great time to just see people and to be able to talk. We did a video conference with our Sunday school class last week, and that was also a great time. Those are things that you can do with your other class members to be in touch and to share their desires and needs. There are people in our church and in our community who are suffering, who, because of various reasons, don't have the way to get to the grocery store or don't have the means to do it. We need to be mindful of our neighbors and ask if they do need help. Another thing is protect yourself. There have been lots of confusion about the masks and about hand washing and about staying at a distance from others. The important thing to realize is this virus is spread by contact and by droplet. When a droplet containing the virus is spread to us, it can be spread in a very minute quantity. We can get it on our face or on our hands and then carry that to our nose or to our mouth or to our eyes, where it can enter into our body and replicate and cause disease. Well, how do you prevent that? Well, you don't prevent it. You just lower the numbers, and if you can, avoid it as much as possible. One way to do that, obviously, is the social distancing. But we know that it's even spread by people at a distance, even though they don't have symptoms, through a cough or a sneeze. And that's the reason for the masks and gloves. The mask doesn't really protect you from them. It protects them from you. When you cough, you disperse droplets of moisture that contain the virus. The mask just traps that inside, and as a result, it doesn't spread to others in the environment. The mask can provide some protection for you and reduce droplets that you would inhale through your mouth or through your nose, but it can still get on your skin, your eyes, your forehead. So it's important that when you take your mask off, that you do it such that you know that it's contaminated by loosening it either around your ears or the back, holding only to the straps, and then cleaning or sterilizing the mask. One of the good ways to do it now with a cloth mask is to take a regular paint mask or a surgical mask, if you have it, with thick cotton, and then cover it with a cloth mask and wash that mask. Wearing gloves is also helpful, but it's important that you take them off the proper way, and that is to reverse them and pull them off. I was at Walmart about a week ago picking up a delivery, and I noticed that there were masks all over the parking lot. There were masks and gloves that people had discarded. Well, that's not being a great citizen, nor is it being a great Christian. So realize that when you dispose of masks, dispose them in a proper place, such as a closed garbage bag, so that you don't share your germs with others, including those who are in the sanitation business. Gloves should be reversed. You can wash them. You can sterilize them by washing them with a bleach solution, but and reuse them then. But it's important to keep them clean. The virus doesn't tolerate soap and water, so one of the best tools that you have is washing your face, your hands frequently, and getting rid of any exposure that may be on your skin. So after you remove your gloves, be sure that you wash your face and hands. Realize that it can come in on particles, though there's recent evidence that there's really not a problem with the virus present on groceries, but it's still prudent for you to be careful how you handle the groceries after you bring them home, or products that you bring home, and then to clean the surface that you've had them on, and then as well wash your hands afterwards. Once they're stored, it's unlikely that the virus is going to spread to you after some time that they've been in storage. But it's important to realize that if you keep your house clean, that you wipe down the surfaces, you're reducing any contact that you might have with the virus. A lot of people have asked me, when is all this going to be over? Well, there's no real good way to tell you. It's going to be over when it's over. There are some people that think that the virus is going to go through the summer and into the fall, and it will have a resurgence in the fall. There are others that think that the virus will be affected by the summer, much like other viruses, and that contact will be reduced at that point in time, and that we won't have as much spread. The fact is, we don't really know, because this is a new virus, and we don't know what its spread is going to be like in other months. The important thing to know is that if you follow those guidelines of social distancing and careful avoidance, you can avoid contact with the virus as much as possible. The other thing that you need to be aware of is to prepare. Lots of people have obviously stored up toilet paper and paper goods and foods in their homes to the detriment of others. So it's important to know that you'll need supplies for a short period of time, but there are plenty of supplies available. It's not that we have a shortage of paper goods or a shortage of foods. The foods are readily available. It's just that we're hoarding them and taking in an inordinate amount of paper goods in our homes. So use them wisely. Don't hoard them from others, and share out of your abundance. If you have an abundance and friends or neighbors don't have it, share what you have. Remember, the Lord told us to share with other church members and with other believers. We can share with our neighbors and have a great opportunity of Christian witness if we do that. My wife and I have taken to sharing a meal preparation, and we prepare a menu throughout the week. Sandra's really been good about doing that, and as a result, we've been able to spread what we've normally eaten or thrown away and utilized it in a much more efficient fashion. Therefore, we've not had to go to the grocery store very often, and when we do, we buy only the essentials that we need for the upcoming 2 weeks and try not to go more than 2 weeks apart. Be careful about your activities when you go to restaurant and you get your takeout orders or go to the grocery store. You're going to see people that you're familiar with or that you know, but don't assume that they've taken all the protective measures. Remember to keep your protective measures available and use them wisely. The final thing that I would want to share with you is be benevolent. Our food pantry needs items, and if you have an abundance of food sources, take it by the food pantry or donate money for those who are less fortunate in our community. Remember, there are a lot of people working very hard. There's no desire on the part of the hospital or the medical physicians or the medical community to hoard any of their assets or to charge extra, at least that I'm aware of. What we're trying to do is get through this just like you are. Remember that you can contact your physician through video conference calls, and most of those are at a reduced rate. It doesn't cost you as much to talk to a physician over a video conference call as is seen with an in-person visit, and you can get a lot of your problems resolved through those video conference calls. I've been doing those for the past 3 weeks, and they're actually a lot of fun because I've gotten to see patients, I've gotten to talk with patients and share information with them, and I think on the whole they've been very pleased with the results. The medical community is stressed. Income is down for our medical clinics and for our hospital because we're not doing the surgeries that really provide income for the hospital, and all those elective procedures are reduced. There will be time where all that can come back to normalcy, and we will be able to do elective procedures and do exams and all the things that you're accustomed to. But realize your medical professionals are stressed and their employment is stressed just like many of you are experiencing. Be sympathetic with them and be sympathetic with others. There are a lot of people with many ideas about the way this should have been handled or the way that it could be handled currently. But remember, we're all learning. This is, again, something that we've not seen before. It's a silent killer. It's much like sin. It's silent. You don't see it in everybody's lives. But it's there, it's evil, and it's causing great distress. I pray that we get through this as a church, we get through this as a community, and that we get through this as individuals. And I pray, Father, that church, that our time together will be personal again, and that we can share those hugs and stories about what we did during the coronavirus experience. I know many of you are stressed, and I did want to share my testimony with you. It was a stressful time in my life back in 1968. I was in school at the University of Mississippi and in chemical engineering. I'd been placed in an advanced level organic chemistry course, and really was having difficult times. I didn't understand all the material, and the course was well advanced over my previous experience. So I was struggling. One Sunday morning, I had decided that I was going to go into church because I had an upcoming test, and I wanted to make sure that I'd checked all the blocks so that I was prepared for my test. So I decided I'm going to walk into town and go to church. It was a beautiful morning. I was up early getting dressed, and I was in the bathroom of our dorm, and a young man came in. Obviously, he was not going to church, and he was getting over the previous night's party, and asked me why I was so dressed up and why I was dressed up early in the morning. So I told him I was going into church, and he said, "Why in the world would you want to do that?" The thing that surprised me was that I didn't have anything to tell him. I said I just thought it was the right thing to do. Well, I never saw Jim Seal again after that. For some reason, our paths never crossed. Jim Seal was drafted, and he went off to Vietnam, as far as I know. And I lost contact with him. But at any rate, it affected my life. I asked a couple of friends who were Christians what I should have done, and I really wasn't satisfied with the answer. So I talked with the leader of our Campus Crusade group. His name was Mike McNames, and Mike sat down with me on my bed in my dorm and said, "Bert, have you ever come to a place in your life where you know for certain that you would die, that you would go to heaven when you die?" And I said, I really don't know what you mean. And so he started talking with me about sin in my life and how Christ had saved me from my sins. And I said, "Oh yeah, I understand that." But I realized that I had never personally accepted Christ's wonderful invitation to come in and to save me from my sins. So on that Sunday afternoon, late that evening, I got down on my knees and prayed the sinner's prayer and asked the Lord to come into my life. I spent time in Bible study and in discipleship with Mike McNames after that, and got to really know who Jesus Christ was. What the difference that it made in my life was that for the first time I really had purpose. I knew that I was saved, and I had a message to be able to share with others. That Jesus Christ can be personal, and that you can have Him in your life too. I hope that's a message that you can share with others, and I hope that through this time of struggle that you can share a message that means something to others. I didn't do as well as I wanted to on that test, and I did. It was good enough to pass, but it wasn't good enough to succeed the way I wanted to succeed. And I realized that the reason that I didn't do well was not because God didn't want me to do well. It was because I just wasn't studying hard enough. So I committed to study a lot harder after that experience, and then finally, ultimately did well. Though I didn't go on to engineering, the Lord chose for me a different path, and I went on into medicine. Since my time with Mike McNames and my discipleship, I've gotten to share my story with many people through the Gideon ministry, through my Sunday school class, and through my church. It's important for me to be able to share that ministry simply because I've had the opportunity in the past to be a witness to others and wasn't. Many of you have had people come across your path as well, and you didn't know what to say. I hope that you have the same kind of experience with Jesus Christ that I've had, and that you will have the opportunity to share with others what your experience with Christ was. I'll close now with my final thoughts about the coronavirus. I think this virus can be a blessing if we let it. It can give us a new desire to seek Christ in everything that we do, and not realize that, and to realize that all the peripheral things that we've enjoyed so much are God-given, and that when they're not there, we still have Christ in our lives, and we have the blessings that God's given us. I think about my little granddaughter, Georgia, who loves life. She doesn't know what it's like to have the wealth of the world. She doesn't know what it's like not to have her mommy and daddy around. She doesn't know what it's like to experience suffering like many of you have in the past. She's just living life from day to day, happy that she's been able to share with others and to talk over the video conference call. So realize that simple pleasures sometimes are the best. Realize that you and I can share with one another through a written note or through a phone call. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. And I hope to see you again at our church. Let me just pray for us for a moment. Father, I just thank you for our church. I thank you for our pastor. Father, I thank you for what you've brought to our community, what you've brought to us, and what you've brought to our church. Father, be with us as we go about our activities in our homes. Protect us from evil. Use us to your glory. Help us to respond to others in loving kindness. For it's in your great name we pray. Amen.